Hello again. Welcome back to You Dreamt This. Tonight's story is called When Shadows Speak Your Name at Night, a slow descent into a forgotten town where the shadows don't just move, they speak. Now, get comfortable. Let your thoughts drift. Let the quiet in. Let the dark do what it does best. And listen closely, because tonight, something in the dark knows your name. I first heard the voice after the third night in Bell's Hollow. Not outside. Not in my head. It came from the walls, murmured like wind through dry leaves, curling its syllables as if the name it spoke were sacred. Caleb! That's my name. But no one here knew it. No one in Bell's Hollow should have known I was here. I came to the town for solitude. After my uncle's sudden passing, I was left his estate. An old farmhouse resting just beyond the broken edges of a decaying village, deep in an overgrown hollow that barely appeared on modern maps. It was quiet, remote, the kind of place you forget even exists in the digital age. It took me hours to find the road that led down into the hollow. The trees pressed in on either side of the dirt path, branches thick with vines, their limbs twisted like they were reaching for something that wasn't there anymore. Even in the daylight, the air felt darker than it should have. Not ominous, just hushed, like the earth itself was listening. The house stood crooked and proud, weathered siding, faded blue shutters hanging on rusted hinges, a stone well out front, everything draped in a brittle silence. It smelled like mothballs, old wood, and something sweetly rotten. I chalked it up to age. Most of the furniture was covered in white sheets. I didn't remove all of them. I didn't want to see what was underneath. The attic was bolted shut. On the first night, I woke up to a knocking sound. Not loud, just persistent. Tap, tap, tap. At first, I thought it came from the hallway. But when I stood up and opened the bedroom door, the sound stopped. There was nothing, just the stale smell of mildew and wood. The second night, I heard whispering. Not full words, just syllables. I couldn't place the direction. It was everywhere and nowhere. Like the house was exhaling dreams. And then, on the third night, it said my name. Not once. Not loudly. Just a gentle whisper right beside my ear. Caleb! I froze. I didn't turn the light on. I couldn't. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, heart pounding. When morning came, I convinced myself it was a dream. But when I went downstairs, something on the kitchen table caught my eye. Dust had been disturbed. In the center, an old wooden box I hadn't noticed before was open. Inside was a crumpled photograph of me, but it wasn't recent. I looked younger. Maybe 15? I was standing on a street corner, smiling. The corner didn't look familiar, but scrawled on the back of the photo was a sentence in faded ink. He always belonged to the hollow. I didn't show this to anyone. Who would I show it to? There was no signal down here. The nearest town was 40 minutes away, and I hadn't seen another soul in days. But that night, the voice came again. Caleb! And then, soft footsteps upstairs. I grabbed a rusted fireplace poker and climbed the stairs slowly. Each step creaked like it was complaining. When I reached the landing, I stood perfectly still. Nothing moved. But the attic door, the one that had been bolted shut, was open just a crack. Cold air leaked from the gap. I should have run. I should have driven straight back to the city and never looked back. But I was rooted there, drawn to it by something old and unseen. I pushed the door open. The attic was filled with shadows, some cast by the low moonlight, others too dark to belong. There were boxes stacked along the walls, and in the center, a chair. In the chair sat a figure, motionless, wrapped in cloth. A burlap sack covered its head, and its limbs were bound with ancient twine. Dust floated around it like fog in the light of my flashlight. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. And then, slowly, the figure raised its head. The sack shifted slightly, as if something underneath smiled. "Welcome back, Caleb." The voice didn't come from the figure. It came from behind me. I turned, expecting to see something. Someone. But there was nothing. Only the attic door swinging shut. The attic door slammed with a finality that made the wall shiver. I lunged toward it, my flashlight beam cutting across the darkness, but the handle wouldn't turn. It was locked from the outside. Somehow. I pounded on it, yelled, tried forcing it open with my shoulder, but the thick wood didn't budge. The air grew colder, denser. The figure in the chair hadn't moved again. I turned back toward it, heart hammering in my chest. I stepped forward, slowly, each footfall muffled by thick dust. The closer I got, the more the air shifted, like I was passing through layers of static. A low hum filled the attic now, almost imperceptible, like the buzzing of a deep electrical wire buried far underground. It seemed to be coming from the figure. I circled around it. The burlap sack still obscured the face. But now I noticed something I hadn't seen before. Carved into the figure's chest, through layers of faded clothes and cracked skin, were symbols. Not letters, glyphs, shapes, spirals, and at the center, my name, Caleb. The rope holding it down wasn't ordinary twine. It was made of something dark and wet, veined like it was still alive. I stepped back. The figure exhaled, not moved, not shifted, just exhaled. A low, rattling breath that carried across the attic in a wave. Behind me, the shadows on the walls began to move. Not from the flashlight, not from wind. They moved of their own accord. They stretched long and thin across the wood, twisting into limbs, arms, fingers, each one pointing toward me. And then, they spoke. "You left us here. You promised you'd never forget. We gave you a name." I dropped the flashlight. Total darkness swallowed the room for a second, but only a second. Because in that moment, something inside me lit up. A memory. No, something older than memory. Of a place not in this world. Of a voice whispering my name long before I had one. Of shadows that weren't always shadows, and promises made when the stars were still warm. I backed into the attic wall, shaking. The figure in the chair twitched. Then slowly, painfully, it stood up, its head tilted toward me. And beneath the sack, I heard something that shook my bones. It was my own voice, whispering, "You said you'd return." I didn't wait. I charged the attic door. This time, it gave way. I tumbled down the stairs, landing hard on my side. My shoulder screamed, but I didn't care. I scrambled to my feet, ran down the hallway, and stopped. The front door was gone. Not locked. Gone. In its place was a solid wall. No windows. No exit. The house had shifted, rearranged itself. Or maybe I crossed a threshold when I entered the attic. A door between places. I turned back slowly. The hallway was different now. The wallpaper was peeling in places, but under the curls and tears were things that weren't wall. Flesh. Veins. Eyes that blinked once, then vanished. And from the end of the hall, where the attic stairs had once been, I saw a new door. Tall. Crooked. Covered in carvings that pulsed with dim red light. I didn't want to go through it, but something was pulling me forward. And in the walls, the shadows began to chant. "Return, return, return." I reached the door. My hand shook as I touched the handle. It was warm. It felt like skin. And when I opened it, I saw something impossible, a mirror, tall, full length, surrounded by nothing but darkness behind it. And in the mirror, I saw myself, but not me, not now. It was me as a child, standing barefoot in the woods behind the old house, holding hands with something tall, something made of shadow and stars, something that whispered a name into my ear, a name I had long forgotten. My reflection smiled, and then it said, "You never left, Caleb. This is still your home." The mirror cracked, and the world split open. The mirror didn't shatter, not like glass normally does. It fractured, splintered inward, like something inside was trying to get out. The crack ran from top to bottom, and through it, I saw more than just darkness. I saw trees, a forest drenched in dust, the kind of forest that lives at the edge of dreams, where sound dies quickly and time refuses to pass. The air around me thickened, warped by pressure, like gravity forgot what direction to pull. I leaned forward, almost against my will. The surface of the mirror shimmered. It no longer reflected anything at all, just the forest. And behind the trees, the silhouette of the thing I'd seen in the childhood memory, waiting. Its limbs were too long. It wore no face, only darkness where one should be. But its presence felt like a memory I was never supposed to recover. It raised a hand, a beckoning gesture, and then the wall behind me closed. I had no choice. Stepping through was like walking into water, thick, cold, resistant, but I passed through. And then the forest swallowed me, not immediately frightening. The forest was quiet, the kind of quiet that presses on your eardrums and makes you feel like something's wrong with your hearing. The trees were tall and bent. Their bark resembled old, wrinkled skin. Leaves hummed low, pale, and translucent. A soft wind blew through, but the leaves didn't move. I walked, not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't stand still. The air was breathing around me. Every so often, I'd hear it, inhale, exhale, like the hollow had lungs. And then, between the trees, I began to see lights. Lanterns, hanging from branches, glowing blue and dim. Each one contained a small slip of paper, pressed against the glass. I approached the first. The paper had a name on it. Caleb Marrow born. 1992 disappeared. 2006 last seen. Edge of Bell's Hollow. I stared at it for a long time. Disappeared? But that wasn't right. I left the hollow when I was 17. I remember it. I remember. Do I? Suddenly, more lanterns flickered to life around me. Dozens. Hundreds. Each one held a name. Some I recognized. Some I didn't. But all of them had something in common. The disappeared date was always the same day. August 14th, 2006, the day I blacked out in the woods behind my uncle's house. The day my parents said they found me barefoot and silent, with no memory of what happened. And now, I was beginning to remember. Too much. From behind me, I heard footsteps. Soft, wet, not on leaves, on flesh. I turned, and standing there was the version of me I'd seen in the mirror. But his eyes weren't mine. They were black. Not just the iris, the whole eye. Black and weeping smoke. He stepped forward. I backed away. "You left me," he said in a voice I couldn't describe. "You let them take me, and you forgot." I tried to speak, but my mouth was full of dust. He walked closer, one hand outstretched. "This place isn't new," he whispered. "It's where you were made." And now, it's time to return. He reached into his chest with one hand. There was no blood, only light, a pulsing shard of something glowing. He pulled it free and held it out. "You broke the seal when you remembered." Take it back. Be whole again. I didn't want it. I didn't trust it. But my hand reached forward on its own. And the moment my skin touched it, I was standing in my bedroom again. At the house. Breath ragged. Sweat dripping down my spine. The attic was gone. The mirror was gone. Only the yellow wallpaper remained. Whispering softly, I staggered to the window. The sun was rising. Had it all been a dream? Then I turned and saw what was on the bed. A photograph. The same one from the kitchen. Me, as a teenager, standing on that street corner. But now, there were two figures in the photo. One was me. The other was the boy with the black eyes. And behind us both, the thing from the forest, just barely visible, hands resting on our shoulders. I stared at the photo on the bed for a long time. Long enough that I forgot how to blink. My hands trembled as I picked it up again. The boy beside me in the picture, the one with black eyes, wore my clothes, my smile. But that wasn't me. Not completely. Not anymore. Something else had crept in behind the resemblance. And the shadowy figure towering behind us, half hidden in fog and distance, its outline wasn't as blurry as before. It was clearer now. Too many limbs. Antlers or branches stretching into the sky. A face made of angles and teeth. Something ancient. Something old. Older than the town. Older than the hollow. Older than names. And it was smiling. I left the bedroom. Every part of the house looked the same. Same layout. Same wallpaper. Same pictures on the wall. But none of it felt the same. The hallway was longer than I remembered. The floorboards were soft. Breathing. And as I walked, I noticed something new. All the family portraits on the walls had changed. Faces blurred. Eyes missing. Mouths twisted open like they were mid-scream, but silent. In one photo, my uncle stood beside someone who wasn't real, a figure covered in ash and shadow. Their hand rested gently on my uncle's shoulder, like an old friend. And beneath the frame, etched crudely into the wood, "Do you remember yet?" I kept walking. The kitchen had rotted. Cupboards collapsed in on themselves. The fridge door hung open, leaking a dark amber sludge that pulsed in slow intervals. The same photograph now sat on the fridge door, pinned by a single nail. But this time, the boy's eyes were looking at me. I backed away. A sound rose behind me. The front door creaked open. But I had seen it gone before. I turned slowly, cautious, careful. There it was. The front door, whole again, swinging open into daylight. Beyond it, not the porch, not the yard, not the trees, just a long hallway. Stone walls, lanterns burning blue. It was the same hallway from the forest. A voice whispered from the doorframe, "You are not done. You are not whole." I stepped through. The hallway was impossibly long. I walked for what felt like hours, but the lanterns never ended. Each one still held a name, some familiar, some long forgotten. But now, the glow was changing. No longer blue. Now deep red, like fire from inside bone. And every few lanterns, a mirror was affixed to the wall. Each mirror showed a version of me. Older, younger, smiling, bleeding, screaming silently, and in each mirror, something was always behind me, shifting, watching, growing closer. I tried not to look into them anymore. Eventually, I came to a door. This one wasn't crooked or rotting. It was made of black glass, and carved into its center were the words, "If you enter, you will remember everything." For a moment, I hesitated. Do you know how heavy memory can be? It's not just recalling moments. It's living them again, feeling them again. But part of me already knew. I had no choice. I touched the door. The world broke open again. But this time, I didn't fall. I sank. Through water, then light, then stars. Through sound so loud it was silence. And when I surfaced again, gasping, I was in a hospital bed. The air sterile and buzzing with electricity. Monitors beeped. A fluorescent light flickered. A nurse stepped in. She froze when she saw me awake. "Oh my God," she whispered, stepping out to yell down the hallway. "He's up. Room 306. He's finally up." Footsteps. Panic. Voices. A doctor entered. A woman. Kind eyes. Gloves on. "Caleb Marrow?" she asked. "You've been in a coma for 19 years. The floor beneath me dropped. My mouth opened, but no sound came out. Coma? No. I was just in my childhood home. The attic. The forest. The hallway. The figure. The hollow. "This is ST. "Loretta's," the doctor said gently. "You've been here since 2006. My mind reeled. I looked at my hands. Older. Pale. I tried to sit up, and pain flared in my chest. "Easy," the doctor said. "You've been through a lot. Your brain is still stitching things together." I whispered finally, "What happened to me?" She frowned. Looked away. "No one knows. You were found in Bell's Hollow. Barefoot. Unconscious. No injuries. But you never woke up. Until now." Behind her, a shadow passed across the wall. I stared. Frozen. The doctor didn't notice. The shadow slipped across the fluorescent wall, smooth and silent as ink in water. It wasn't a trick of the light. I knew it. The doctor's voice had faded into background static. Something about physical therapy, about long-term memory gaps, about the importance of routine and psychiatric evaluation. I wasn't listening, because in the corner of the hospital room, something was moving. It didn't cast a shadow. It was the shadow. Long arms unfolding like unraveling thread. A face like broken glass behind gauze. Antlers, no, branches, growing up into the white ceiling tile like veins into flesh. It didn't blink. It didn't have to, because it never stopped watching. And it whispered, "You brought us back with you." My breath caught. The doctor's head turned, just slightly, as if she heard something too. But then she blinked it away. She smiled again, professional, calming. "You'll need rest. We'll keep monitoring you. Your vitals are good, all things considered." She left the room. I waited, watched. The figure didn't move again, but I could feel it there, fused to the corner, part of it. When I finally drifted to sleep, it spoke again. The dream was worse than the attic. I was back in Bell's Hollow, standing at the edge of the well outside the house. The sky was boiling red, branches curled like claws. All the lanterns were hung from the trees again, swinging in a wind that didn't touch me. And from the well, I heard the voice. My voice, calling upward, begging, "Don't forget me again." Something began to rise from the water inside. Not a body, not a reflection. Me, but not just me. One side of the face had black eyes, leaking smoke. The other was blank, smooth like porcelain. The thing climbed over the well's edge, dragging a chain of paper photographs behind it. Each one showing me at different ages, all in the hollow, all with something just off. Too many teeth, an extra hand, a shadow not matching the light. The creature pointed behind me. I turned. The entire forest was watching. Not animals, not people. Eyes, just eyes. In the branches, the leaves, the soil, some blinking. some wide, all unblinking on me. And then they spoke in unison. "You woke up, but not alone." I screamed and awoke, back in the hospital bed. The clock blinked 3:00 a.m. The room was dark, but in the chair beside me, someone sat. Not a nurse, not the doctor. It was me, or the boy version of me, 15, wearing the same hoodie I wore the day I disappeared. He smiled. "You're remembering too fast," he whispered. "It'll hurt more this time." I tried to move. Couldn't. He leaned closer. "They didn't just take you, Caleb. They made a door out of you. Every time you sleep, they pass through." I forced my lips to part. "What do they want?" The boy's smile widened. "To be known." And then he stood up. His body began to flicker like a candle about to die out. "You can stop them, but you have to finish waking up." He reached toward my chest and pushed. I gasped and sat up, screaming. The nurses rushed in. "Lights on!" The hallucination gone. Monitors glared. They restrained me gently, talking calmly, but I saw it before they blocked my view. One of the shadows in the corner lingered, longer than it should have. Its eyes opened just a second too late. Over the next few days, the doctor said I was improving, but I knew the truth. Every time I blinked, I saw pieces of that other world. Mirrors warping, walls that breathed, lanterns swinging from ceilings that should not exist. They told me I was free to leave. I packed my few belongings, and as I walked out the hospital doors into a world that felt less real than the dream, I felt the presence behind me again. Not chasing, not haunting, just attached, like a shadow that had learned to live in my lungs. I'm home now, but things aren't right. My phone rings at 3 a.m., only static. The mirror in my bathroom shows me blinking when I know I'm holding my eyes open. And last night, I found a photograph pinned to my fridge. The same one. Me. The boy. The shadow. Only now, my current self is in the picture too, watching from a window behind me. Smiling, like I'd always been there. The hollow is still with me, in every corner of the dark. And tonight, I hear it whisper again, "Caleb!" Story number 2. Ghostly voices that drift in your sleep. You lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, the shadows from your curtain swaying like long, slow fingers. Rain taps against the window, steady and calming at first, but then something shifts. Not in the sound, but in the silence beneath it. Something wrong, whispering beneath the comfort. You don't remember falling asleep, but now you're standing barefoot in the middle of your childhood bedroom. Except the walls are warped, and your bed is missing. Everything is coated in a thin layer of dust that swirls up when you breathe. A dim orange glow pulses from the crack beneath the door, like a flickering firelight. But you don't smell smoke. You smell lake water, wet stone, cold breath. You step toward the door without thinking. The floor creaks louder than it should. Not like wood, but like something sighing, moaning, pleading. And when you place your hand on the doorknob, it's icy cold. Outside is not your hallway. It's a corridor of fog tight, like it was squeezed between two worlds. Voices echo softly through it, all murmuring at once. Not words, just breathy, mournful hums, like lullabies played backward on broken instruments. You walk because what else can you do? The corridor narrows and tilts slightly downward, until you feel as though you're descending into the throat of something vast and ancient. Faint shadows dart past you in the fog, not fast like animals, but slow, curious. Watching, waiting. Then, The voices start to rise in tone. You reach a door at the end, an arched, warped slab of wood wrapped in black iron vines. You don't knock. You push it open and find yourself in a room made entirely of water. The ceiling above you ripples like the surface of a pond, and the floor below looks like the bottom of a lake, scattered with bones and rotting books. You realize you're standing on something solid only when it moves. A flat stone, like a gravestone, floating beneath your feet. And the voices? Now they're singing. A soft, low chorus, as if dozens of people were standing just beneath the water's surface, singing in harmony. But there are no words. Just that same aching hum, reverberating in your bones, as if the sound is inside you, not around you. A figure appears across the room. You don't remember them entering. They look like a drowned version of yourself. Bloated, pale, eyes sunken in black. They open their mouth, but no voice comes out. Instead, your head fills with a sound like static, but slower, organic, as though the static itself were alive. Your double lifts their hand and points behind you. You turn. The water has risen halfway up your legs. You didn't notice until now. The whispers grow sharper. You still can't make out the words, but they tug at your memories. You think of nights long forgotten, things you lost, apologies never spoken. They claw into your skull like old, decaying roots. Suddenly, you're back in the corridor. But it's different now, pulsing red and black, like a vein. The voices are screaming in reverse. You cover your ears, but it doesn't stop the noise. You feel them sliding through your thoughts, sifting, peeling, and then silence. Total, crushing silence. The kind that makes your heartbeat sound like a cannon. You open your eyes, you hadn't noticed them closing, and find yourself in a vast theater. Dust falls in slow motion. Rows of empty velvet chairs stretch into darkness. On the stage, a spotlight flickers on. There's a phonograph. It begins to spin. The needle drops, and the singing starts again. Not from speakers, no. From the walls. From the seats. From inside your mouth. You try to speak, but your voice joins the song. You are part of it now. A single figure sits in the front row. You know it's not human by the way it doesn't blink, doesn't move, just listens, watches. You take a step forward, but the floor gives way beneath you, and suddenly you're falling, down, down, through old attics, long-forgotten dreams, through fog and memories and water. You land gently. You're lying in your bed, or something like your bed. The ceiling above you is warped. The shadows are swaying like fingers again. And now, you hear the singing just beyond the window. Close, pressing its mouth to the glass. Your phone buzzes beside you. One notification. You lift it with a shaking hand. The screen is cracked. The message reads, "We hear you." The singing outside stops. And a soft voice, one that sounds like your own, whispers behind your ear, "Do you hear us back?" You bolt upright in bed, heart pounding, breath sharp. The rain is still ticking against the window, but the house is wrong. You know that instantly. It's too still. Not silent, just still. Like everything around you is holding its breath. The phone screen is dark now, the crack across it jagged like a lightning bolt. You tap it. Nothing. Dead. But you swear, just for a second, it faintly lit up with that same message again. "We hear you." You get up, hesitantly, bare feet brushing against cold wood floors that shouldn't be this cold. The hallway outside your bedroom stretches much longer than it ever has before. The carpet is gone. The doors are unfamiliar, warped and water-stained, with keyholes shaped like mouths. You walk. Not because you want to, but because it feels like the house is guiding you. Each step you take sounds muffled, like you're walking through deep snow. The lights overhead flicker, dim orange, swaying softly, as if they're being rocked by some invisible tide. And then, at the end of the hall, a door. Heavy, wooden, almost breathing. It opens on its own. Beyond it is a room filled with radios. Not modern ones. These are old, brass knobs, fraying wires, dials scratched by time. They're stacked on shelves, on chairs, on tables. Some hang from the ceiling like fruit, and all of them are on. Each one crackles with voices, not speaking to you. Not at first, just whispering. Some laugh, some cry, some repeat the same word over and over. Listen. Your head throbs. The words dig in like fishhooks. Then, one voice grows clearer than the rest. A woman's. Soft, familiar. I missed you, she says. Why did you leave us here? You move toward that radio, trembling. The voice continues, warping as it speaks. It's cold here. We waited. You promised you'd never forget. You don't recognize the voice anymore. It's changed, deepened, echoing like it's coming from inside a well. You reach out to turn the dial. But the second your fingers touch the knob, all the radios stop. Every one of them. The silence hits you like a wave, full of pressure and static. And in that silence, you hear it again. Breathing. Close. You turn. There's a figure in the corner of the room. Not standing. Not moving. Just perched, like a marionette that's waiting to be picked up. Its head twitches once. Then again. And then it speaks in your voice. You're the only one still awake. The room bends. No, you bend. Your knees give out. The floor stretches downward, becoming a spiral staircase of churning black stone. The figure doesn't move, but its presence follows you, like gravity. You fall through the next doorway. Not walk. Not climb. You fall. When you land, you're kneeling in front of a massive mirror. But your reflection isn't your own. It watches you. Smiles. Moves a half second after you do. Behind that version of you is a room. An impossible room filled with dozens of you, each whispering things you can't hear. Each one moving in perfect silence. Until one of them turns and looks directly into your eyes. You're dreaming. It mouths. You try to look away, but you can't. Your muscles don't respond. The mirror ripples. Softly, like water. A hand reaches through from the other side. Yours, but not yours. And then the voices return. Not from the radios, but from inside the mirror. Dozens of them, all murmuring at once. Remember the cellar. She's still down there. You left the door open. It heard her singing. We never stopped listening. Suddenly you remember something you've never remembered before. A cellar door. A flashlight. A lullaby sung too close to your ear. You get up, not realizing when you stood. You're standing at the top of stairs that descend into darkness. They weren't here a second ago. And that song. You hear it again. Soft, beautiful, wrong. It's not a child singing, but it's trying to sound like one. You descend, step by step. Each stair creaks louder than the last. And then, there it is. The cellar door. Slightly ajar. Blackness pouring from beneath it like ink. You reach for the handle, your finger shaking, your heart screaming at you to stop. But you open it, because you have to. You descend into pitch dark, your hand brushing the walls to find your way. The smell is thick, wet stone, rusted metal, and something floral. Something dead pretending to be alive. The bottom of the stairs leads to a single room. Concrete. Wet. Dripping. A table sits in the center. And on it, a tape recorder. Already playing. Your voice again. I saw her, you say, faint and distant on the tape. She was humming, and there was blood on the wall, but it wasn't hers. Then another voice overlays your own, distorted, like it was dragged across time. You're not supposed to be here again. The room grows cold. The lights flicker, and behind you, footsteps. Slow, dragging. You don't turn. Not yet, because you already know who it is. The song stops. A breath brushes against your neck, and a voice like wet velvet whispers. Now you listen to me. The voice behind you speaks without lips, without a mouth, and yet it wraps around your brain like a ribbon soaked in ice water. You forgot the rules. You stay frozen, afraid that moving might snap some invisible thread keeping this thing from dragging you into whatever pit it calls home. But it doesn't grab you. It just breathes again. Wet, hollow. You stop listening. That's how we slipped in. You finally turn. There's nothing there. Just a damp concrete wall, slick with moisture that smells like pond water and rust. The footsteps, the voice, it's gone. But on the recorder, the tape is still running. You walk to it, slowly, and watch the reel spin. The voice on the tape has changed. Now it's laughter. The kind of laughter you hear from a distance and can't tell if it's joyful or cruel. You press stop, but the reels keep spinning. You try to pull the plug from the wall, but there's no cord. The device is plugged into nothing. Still, the tape continues, louder now. Voices layer over voices, a chaotic fugue of screams, prayers, lullabies, and backwards phrases. We see you sleep. The walls remember. Dig down, not out. Suddenly, your head feels heavy. The room warps at the edges. The ceiling stretches upward like an endless tunnel. And then, you're underwater. You didn't see it coming. There was no splash. Just the cold. 1 second you were standing. Now you're floating in icy blackness, surrounded by dark shapes that hum as they drift. You can breathe, but it doesn't feel right. It feels borrowed. Around you, the shapes slowly rotate. Not fish, not people, not animals. Just shapes, humanoid outlines without detail, staring without eyes. Each one whispers. Their mouths don't move, but you hear them. You left her humming. She made the lullaby for you. Now it belongs to us. A massive sound shakes the water. A boom. Like something ancient shifting in its sleep. The figures scatter. You look down. There's a door beneath you. Huge, metal, bolted, and pulsing like a heart. Chains wrapped around it, but they don't look like they're holding it shut. They look like they're holding it closed from your side. You drift closer. Something wants you to. There's a symbol carved into the metal, a spiral made of teeth. You reach out, fingers trembling. As your hand brushes the surface, you feel every voice that ever touched this place scream in unison. Not in pain, in warning, but it's too late. The door begins to open. Just a crack. From inside, darkness pours upward, not like smoke, not like water, like a memory too strong to contain. Suddenly you're no longer underwater. You're standing in a bedroom. Your bedroom? Maybe. The colors are off, desaturated, like a faded photo. Your body feels heavier, slower. And there, on the floor, is a girl. 7? 8? She's humming to herself, head tilted back to you. She has no face, just smooth skin where features should be. Still, her voice sounds like someone you used to know. A cousin? A friend from a summer long ago? The tune is soft, sweet, and utterly wrong. You step toward her. Her body twitches. She slowly turns, and the skin where her face should be splits like paper, revealing hundreds of small, perfectly shaped human mouths. all singing in unison. "Do you remember the rest of the song?" they asked through hundreds of lips. "We kept it for you." You try to scream, but nothing comes out. You back away, stumble into the doorframe, and suddenly you're in the hallway again. But it's full of mirrors now. Each one reflects something else. Not your past, not your future, just different versions of now. In one, you're asleep in your bed, but something crawls from beneath the mattress, whispering into your ear. In another, you're staring directly at yourself, but your reflection doesn't blink. In the last one, you see yourself walking deeper into the house, toward a room you've never entered before. That last one looks back at you and smiles. You blink. You're at that door, the one from the mirror. You've never seen it before in real life, but now it's here in front of you. Tall, black, covered in veins of gold that move like they're alive. Your hand rises without thinking. You open it. Inside, a single chair, a phonograph spinning, and a tape reel beside it labeled, "For when you remember too much." You sit, because what else can you do? The phonograph plays static. Then, your voice again, but older, tired. "I thought it was a dream. I really did. But every time I wake up, I hear them. Closer, clearer. They're not memories. They're recordings. And they've been playing me this whole time." The tape begins to warp, then loop, then reverse, until all you hear is a voice, one you don't recognize, whisper, "She's waiting." You stand. The chair dissolves beneath you. So does the room. You fall again, through sound, through song, through your own memory, and land, for the third time, in your bed. Rain outside, darkness all around. Only this time, there's someone lying next to you, breathing. You don't look. You can't. You just listen. And the voice next to you whispers, "Don't open your eyes." She still thinks you're asleep. You stay perfectly still. The voice beside you breathes in, breathes out. Slowly, rhythmically, too perfectly, as if it learned how to mimic sleep by watching you. You count the seconds between each inhale, each exhale. 7, 8, 9. Pause. Repeat. It's the pause that gets under your skin. And then the voice speaks again. Soft, wet. You hummed it first. We all heard you. Your eyes snap open. There's nothing beside you. No voice. No figure. Just your empty bed and the rainless silence pressing against the windows. You sit up. The room is exactly as it was. Almost. Only your phone flickers now, weak and cracked. One message blinks across the screen. "Go to where the humming started." You don't hesitate. You already know where it began. The attic smells like dust and drowned wood. Everything up here feels suspended, held in place by memory, not time. You step around the old rocking horse, the broken picture frames, the forgotten boxes, and then you see it, the reel-to-reel recorder, still spinning, still humming. Beside it, a faded photo of you and your sister, smiling, incomplete. A tall shape looming behind you both, blurred by motion or by something else entirely. Something that doesn't want to be remembered clearly. The recorder clicks, resets, and plays again. This time, your voice comes through. "If you're hearing this, it means you remembered too much." A pause. The static pulses like a heartbeat. The song was never for us. It was passed through sleep, through breath, through grief. A lullaby meant to keep something out, or let something in. She sang it. I hummed it. And now, it's your turn. The recorder dies, and from the far corner of the attic, the humming resumes. You turn, and she's there. Your sister, or a memory of her, or something wearing her shape like a favorite coat. She hums the tune you almost forgot, until your lips start to follow. Softly, against your will, you try to stop, but it's too late. The song is already in your lungs, in your bones. Your body hums with it now. And behind her, others begin to appear. Children, shadows, versions of you, all singing, all waiting for the final verse. Your sister's mouth doesn't move when she speaks, but her voice is clear inside your skull. Finish it. End the forgetting. Sing her name. You don't remember the name, but your mouth does. You sing it. A single note, a single name, and the attic erupts into silence. Everything stops. The humming, the figures, the world. And for the first time, you feel peace. Not comfort, not warmth, but peace. The kind that only comes when a song is finished, when a door is closed, when a memory finally knows it can sleep. You open your eyes. You're lying in your bed. It's morning. Birds chirp outside the window. The air smells like rain, clean and distant. No messages on your phone. No voices in the walls. You rise, stretch, and for a moment, you wonder if it was just a dream. But in the mirror, for just one breath, you see her standing behind you, smiling, humming, and you smile too, because you remember. And now, she doesn't have to sing alone.